You're here to promote your book, a wonderful book, I have to say,
And,
Bursting the Bubble, Football, Autism, and Me. I have to
mhm.
say, John, I'm one of the privileged few to get a pre-release, so thank you very much for that. I really enjoyed it. It was so refreshingly honest and so brilliantly written as well by Michael Garvey. I have to ask you the first question I want to ask, because reading the book and getting to know your personality a little bit and your reasons for leaving the game, because you felt a little uncomfortable in the world of professional football,
Mm.
was telling your story in the public eye like this, was that a difficult decision to make?
Yeah, because I'm quite a sort of private person, really. I can be outgoing,
Mhm.
but telling your story and putting it out there for the world, if you just get out into the world, it's quite a big thing. And I didn't really want to do that, but the ex was telling me, you've got a story there, and a few of my mates were saying as well, there's a story there, and I just think I'm not that interesting. Do you know what I mean? So I thought, who would want to read about me? But I get it. There is a story there. But there is a story there. And like I say, it's been received okay so far. Like I say, you've read it, so you understand it's not all about football. So
Yes, it's definitely
I'm trying
not
to get a
your.
bit of caffeine down me because I'm a little bit.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. It's definitely not your typical football book. And that's why I think it will appeal to everybody, not just football fans. Football fans will want to know your story, what was going on behind the scenes, and your reasons for leaving the game, if you like. People that are not interested in football will be totally intrigued by the other side of it, the two John O'Kanes. I'd love to ask you a little bit about your mum. I know she was an integral part in your life. Obviously, she brought you up as a single mother. How much? Tell me a little bit about her as a lady, and also the influence that she had on you as a man.
Well, I say if people know her and they get to see this, they'll know that she was quite a force to be reckoned with. She was quite a strong lady. She worked her ass off, like, she had 3 or 4 jobs at a time
Mhm.
sometimes, just to provide, only child, so I was spoiled anyway in that way. Yeah, she died in 2018.
Mm.
But we're both quite sort of, we're realists, you see, and we knew it was going to happen. And we both, we had a good chat and everything. There were no real tears. It was strange, but it's just the way I'm built. I'm built like
Yeah.
my mum, you see, quite black and white. This is me. If you don't like it, you know, it is
Yeah.
what it is, and she doesn't suffer fools. And that's just how I've been brought up. It probably damaged my career slightly because of the way I am. And of course, the autism as well, being on the
Okay.
spectrum, that adds
So
to it as
I.
well. But I'm basically a reincarnation of my mum, end of the day, personality, attitude, everything. Basically, if you mess with me, you're gonna get a raft back. It's simple as that. But yeah, yeah, she's a good lady.
So yeah, and no doubt you take a lot of pride from carrying on those character traits. But if I
Um,
can just ask you, because I've read the book, I know what you're talking about. Can
yeah.
you touch on a little bit what you mean that you inherited her character and it hindered your career a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Well, look, it can be classed as having like I'd say a bad attitude. It just if in an okay, if you feel like you've been wronged, you want to answer. You want to you want to reply and say you
Mhm.
question stuff. I've always questioned stuff, and in football, my mum's always said to me, if you think you're right, you go for it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and that's just been from an early age. You see, so I get
Mhm.
that from her. And in football, you can't really be like that. There's a lot of stories in there that have come at me, managers have come at me, and I've questioned it. I'm really supposed to sit there, take it, and I probably a few times that I should have just bit my lip, but it's just hard. It's just hard to do that in my makeup, and that's
Mhm.
from her. I can't, it is a DNA that's in me, and it's just hard
Yeah.
to describe. But like I say, my biological dad, I've only met him a couple of times. When I did meet him, he was very laid back, and I got that I think that laid back attitude in my play. If you watch me
Okay.
play, I was quite laid back, weren't I?
Yes.
I wish I had the. I think I got the genes from him, the
Okay.
laid
So the
backness. So it looked
mix.
very easy for me and very casual, which again
Mhm.
doesn't go down well with the fans sometimes. A bit like Berbatov, you look a little bit languid,
Yes.
a bit
Yes.
too, you look lazy basically, and that
Mhm.
tag stuck with me. But as far as my mum, I wish I had that tenacity, that Leo that she was. Like that Mark Hughes type. She was like that kind
Mhm.
of personality, very aggressive, and I didn't. I just didn't get that. But if I was wrong, I would be the best player on the pitch, and I would be all
Yeah.
at it. But you can't just switch it on like that, and that was my DNA, and that was my makeup, you know. And
Okay. Yeah. Very, very
that's
interesting.
either side, you see, the dad's side and the mum's side. So you know, they both sort of differ. I was battling both, you see.
Yes, I understand. You touched on Berbatov there, an
Yeah.
uncle. I remember one of my uncles when he signed for United, Berbatov. My uncle said to me, he said, you know, people say, oh, they think he's lazy, this and that. He did make it look effortless. It was through his
Yeah.
genius. But my uncle said, look, he's like a light switch. You only turn it on when you need it.
You know, and the trials that I had, when I needed to turn it on, I could flick the switch,
Yes.
and I'm the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
But you can't. I understand now. You can't be like that. And like I say, with the 3 kids I've got now, I try and tell them, you know, you've got to work hard first. You've got to. You can't just turn it on when you want to. And I try and do the opposite of what I did. Obviously, you can't. You know, you can't plan your kids' future, but you can. I can guide in a way that help, especially because they're all sporty. So I'm trying to guide them in that way where you can't really be answering back. You can't be doing this kind of stuff. You know, you got to have your own mind. That's fine. But in certain, like even in a normal job, you cannot question the boss sometimes, and that's just the way it goes. You know, I'm trying to sort of steer them that sort of way, but still have their own mind. You know.
Yeah, and it is difficult in any job sometimes to bite your lip. I'm guilty of that myself. But
being a kiss ass is really hard to do, isn't it? Being a kiss ass, and anyone who's been in a dressing room with me, no, I can't. It feels I just can't do it. It just feels.
I couldn't either, John. Absolutely not. I could never do that. It's one thing not to answer back, to bite your lip and not answer back, but to be a kiss ass, no, I couldn't do that.
Not to be rude or anything. I was never rude. It was just that I was answering something that was being asked of me, or you know, questioning me, which I thought I was right, and it just, you know, you just can't do that.
Yeah. And John, can I ask you about your dad? You know, I understand it's a sensitive subject. You said in the book that you met him for the first time when you were 20 years old. Now, at this stage, your football career was really going places. As a reader from the outside looking in, you know, you could forgive somebody for looking at that thinking, did his dad only come on the scene when his football was starting to take off? I don't mean any offense by that, but how did that feel at the time?
To be fair, I didn't really look into it too deeply at the time. It was a Forest game away, a reserve game. My mum said, look, your father wants to meet you. And for 20 years, obviously being a baby, I wouldn't know, but for near 20 years, we've never spoke his name or never spoke about him. I always wondered who it was, but I had a stepdad who was great, by the way, from the age of about 10 or 11 up to about 18, 19, 20 before they split. And looking back, that game, I met him, it was fine. I'm a quite sort of open person, quite sort of, I'd say casual. I met him, shook his hand, I met his family and everything. It was fine. It was a really nice guy. But there was no feelings towards him. There was nothing there at all. I've never needed him. So it was a stranger. But I was respectful, and, you know, he said, oh, it wasn't my fault, that kind of thing, which, you know, I've gone a bit more detail in the book sort of thing. But, it was just different times back then, back in the 70s. You know, a black man seeing a white woman, and I mean, Nana was quite strict back then, so things could have happened out of his control. I don't know, but yeah, like I say, you can look at it and be probably, oh, it's a bit convenient that I sort of just on that verge, and he wanted to meet me or something, or it might be my mum reaching out. I never questioned it, you know. It might have been just a time just to see him. So look, I have no sort of bad feelings. I have no feelings for him. That's the point. There's no. I don't think of him every day now. It's not a Jeremy Coward. If I saw him, I'd break down and cry. And you know, it's nothing like that. It's just that the only sad thing is that my 3 kids haven't got a. What I used to call him a papa. I had a good papa, you see. But that's what he's missed out on, you know, and that's what it comes to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, it is nice. I don't know if it gave you any kind of closure or a better understanding, but it's nice that you did get to meet.
Of course, I saw him twice. I went down again and saw him. I took my ex-girlfriend there, and it was fine. I met his dad. I met my half-sister as well. I've not seen her since, you know, which is it's just strange. I've got a sister out there. She's got a family probably, you know. It's crazy when you think about it, but we've just never reached out.
Just one of these things, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So, John, moving on, actually going back a little bit, originally, when you were spotted for United as a teenager, a small little fat man with a bald head and jam jar glasses spotted you.
Right.
You didn't know who he was, did you?
No. Right, let's say, when I was that age, about 14, I might have been watching a bit early, I don't know, but my mum just said, Nobby Styles is over there, sort of thing. I was like, who the fuck, who's Nobby Styles? I haven't got a clue. Do you know what I mean? It's bad when you think about it. But I just played football, and I didn't really take much notice of it. I didn't support County or Forest. I just went to a few games, and that was it. I didn't know anything about Man United's history and nothing. I might, of course, them on TV now and again, maybe an FA Cup final, but it just didn't resonate that someone would come and watch me. I knew I was a good player. I was one of the best players in Nottingham for my age, and I knew there'd be scouts there. But for Nobby Styles to come and watch me, it's looking back, it's such a privilege, isn't it? No clue. He just said, "Do you want to come for a trial up at Man United?" And I said, oh, "Okay, then let's do it."
Hop in the car with a stranger.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
like, who was that? Was Google around then? Back then, I'm not sure.
Probably not, John.
Probably not. So I
Probably
couldn't do nothing. So I have to go off what the manager said. Yeah, he's Nobby Styles. Like, Jesus.
You do refer to football as a superficial bubble. I remember I followed your progression through the United ranks back in the day, and I always felt you were the future in the first team. I really did. I remember players like you and Terry Cook, I always felt would have a great career in the first team. Doesn't always work out this way, but you were an integral part to the class of 92, the first youth United side to win the FA Youth Cup since the Busby Babes. Talk to us a little bit about that time, John.
Yeah, like I say, at that time, I was totally in love with football. And it was like I say, the team that was formed was very special since the Busby Babes, you see. So it's a long time since United won that Youth Cup. Like I say, the gaffer wanted to find the best kid in every region, and he did that: London, Ireland, Scotland, Manchester, and then he brought us all together. And I say, Eric Harrison, he worked wonders with us. It was quite tough back then, upbringing wise. But we're all technically very good, so it didn't have much to work with. It was just the mental side. At the time, like you said, me, Terry Cook, I was quite advanced at that age, and I'm not being big at it, but I felt like I in my head that I would make it, just like Neville did and all them, because I had good technique, a good technical ability, and I relied on probably that too much. But going back to that time, it was a special time, and it was like exciting because we knew we were a good team. And like I say, for a reserve game, we used to get like 10,000 coming to watch us. You're probably one of them, against that great Leeds side and stuff, and the Palace side, obviously. But it was a special time back then.
Going back to the title of the book, it's going to get a bit of attention for people that are not familiar with your story: football, autism, and me. So at what stage, because I know throughout your career you're talking about you struggled with tics, at what point did you realize, okay, this is not just a normal, say, habit that I have or something like this? When did it become a problem as such, and how did you deal with it?
Look, I always knew growing up that I wasn't kind of normal, but nobody really did. It was just my nickname was John, and I used to blink a lot, and that was it. That was me, quite happy-go-lucky lad. But I always knew there was something not right, and I just, in them days, you just, further on, you'd have been put in the madhouse, you'd have been put in like an asylum if you had a sort of autism or some, like the 50s and 60s and stuff. But
it wasn't heard of.
Yeah, I always knew there was something not right up here. I'm quite a big thinker. You know what I mean? I will be aware of my thoughts. But yeah, through the teenage years, I think it's more come down to the stress levels, anxieties, the pressure, especially in that environment, which is very high pressured situation that you're in. You've got
so that's your trigger then, anxiety and pressure?
I'd probably say, yeah, if I'm in a situation where I don't feel comfortable and I'm quite anxious, little things can come, and it's a mechanism now. I can sort of cope with that now over the years. It's mentally, I'm quite strong, and I can gauge stuff where I don't need to be, or I can cope. There's little mechanisms where you can sort of do things to ease the sort of anxiety and the pressure. It's like a build-up of pressure in your brain, to be fair. It's quite hard to explain. But it's always been there,
Is this something that the club should have picked up on? Did they detect anything?
Back then, I could
Yeah.
see there was a few players that had like sort of mannerisms like that, and I could see it was
Yeah.
there. It was just something you just don't speak about. You just sort of get on with it. Everyone has their little mannerisms, little ticks, or their little what do you say? Just the way they are. You can pick
Like
up on
character
things.
traits, yeah.
Yeah, characters. That's it. That something's not right there.
Mm.
I won't name them, but there were loads there. But
Yeah.
they just coped in a different way to me.
Hmm.
But I
I
see.
know you. I know you had very close friendship with David Beckham, and you roommated together as well. I seen an early interview with David where he told a story. Even he had his own unique thing. So maybe you noticed this, and maybe he noticed about you. I don't know. You can tell
Yeah,
me.
well, we
But
slept together in the same, literally like
yeah,
5 yards apart, and I knew he had OCD. He's got OCD all day.
yes,
Trust
yes.
me.
That's what I was going to tell you. He
I
told.
see it. It's but a lot of people at OCD where they're quite particular how they want
Mm,
things and stuff. But he used to set me off all the time with his bloody stuff, because he was so particular in his ways. It set me off like, but yeah, I could see the way he was. He just wanted to be perfect, and that's just something that it it sort of probably got a little bit obsessive sometimes, like lining
yeah.
up his deodorants and his clothes have to
Mhm.
be perfect. So we just mess about with his clothes and stuff, wind him up and we'd hide his gels and all that kind of stuff. Because he loved his hair, obviously.
Yeah, I seen an
Uh,
interview where he was talking about if he opens his presses in the morning and he sees 3 tins of beans,
mm,
he has a decision to make. He either has to eat one or he has to go to the shop and buy a fourth one.
yeah,
He has to have even numbers, but I thought this
exactly.
was very strange, his obsession with even numbers, because he's
Yeah.
iconic number seven.
Yeah. And that's it. It's kind of he's on the spectrum in some case, but it's a
Mm.
different, like I'd say can I say it, neurological
Yes,
sort of thing
neurological, yeah.
where his coping mechanism is a lot better than mine. His OCD,
Mm.
it doesn't affect his footballing such. He might have his own rituals and stuff,
Hmm.
but a lot of people have to switch off bloody the light switches under
Yes.
time, that kind of thing. Nothing like that, but I can imagine he would be sort of a little bit that sort of way, in the
Hmm.
OCD where things have to be done specific in a right way, or he
I,
can't move on with his day. You do get that where
yeah.
I've looked after children where they have to do so many things before that day can start. If that's not done
Hmm.
and the routine's broken, their whole day is ruined. That is it.
Wow.
I'm not that kind of way, but I'm just sort of different
Hmm.
makeup. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people have a bit of this in them. I know I do. Maybe
Yeah.
not to that scale. I know I do. I'm quite. Is it superstitious? I don't know, but I think there's a touch of that in most people. But anyway, they're two separate things:
Yeah.
OCD and the autism. Of course, they are. Um, Going on to your first team debut, you came off the bench against Port Vale. Now, you said you had mixed emotions. Obviously, very proud, very excited, but there was also a part of you that wishes, oh, please don't bring me on. Please don't bring me on. But what was that? Just nerves, or is that the
Yeah,
ticks
I think we were winning, weren't we, at the time? Sometimes it's like
Mm,
it can just pop in your head, like certain thoughts.
mm,
A lot of people get like stupid thoughts where, like, you're in a crowded room and should I shout? Should I shout some obscenity? Should I shout? You get that urge. Think I could just
mm,
shout here. You get that urge, but you don't, do you? Where I think it's pop in your head, like, yeah, I'm on the bench thinking, do I really want to play in this? Do I want this? It's crazy how you can think. Obviously, it
yeah.
kicks in when you're going on that and you perform, it's fine. But those thoughts were always with me, kind of thing,
Mm,
which is strange. I wouldn't say I was a nervous kid in playing football because I knew my ability would get
yeah.
me so far. But yeah, it's those doubts that you'd sort of have, and you don't want people staring at you and that kind of thing. It was kind of like that, you see. That was
Mm,
always the battle that people are watching me, and can I cope with that kind of thing? And
yeah.
that's why instead of just thinking of the game and stuff, I had other things that I was thinking about, which added more
Okay.
pressure. So
Uh-huh.
that's the kind of thing that no one knew that I was going through, which I never discussed it at all. I didn't feel
Hmm.
like I needed to, but those are the things that like the quotes from Neville and stuff. If people don't understand the stuff that was going through, and everyone has their problems, everyone has their own little
Hmm.
things. That's fine, but that was my problem. But I
Yeah.
never really disclosed them, sort of thing.
Hmm. I
So,
know it was a different time, John. I'm so glad you're talking about it now, though, because I don't think you realize it, the message this gives to the younger generation. If a kid has the same thing, you know, the same doubts, the same worries, and the same conditions, you know, you don't want them to think, there goes my football career, I can't do this, you know. So you're perfect inspiration for these kids.
You can do it. You can do anything you want. It's just being able to cope in that situation somehow. And like now, you can get a lot of help. There's a lot of things out there in our sort. I keep saying in our day. I'm not even that old, like, but you know, back in
I know I relate when you're saying,
you know what I mean? Even in the 90s, that's not far away. But it's like it just wasn't there. You couldn't open up because you're a man, and you can't ask, you can't say, look, I feel vulnerable and stuff. Imagine saying you're vulnerable back then. It's like, right, go and see the doc, and they give you, you know, we give you a chat, and that was it. There was nothing. There was no help at all, to be honest.
But you know what? It's still like that now in some countries. You know, so it's great that in Europe things are a little bit more maybe Americanized, if you like. You know, people go to get help, professional help.
Therapists, because in America they're always seeing like everyone's got a therapist, haven't they, and stuff. So it's like, you know, I could have done one of them back in the day. You know, we had like, is it the chaplain and stuff? The guy who used to come and if you want to, so you could have a chat with him now. But back then, you don't want to go and speak to like a vicar or that kind of thing, or a priest. You just think, oh, why would I do that? You know, I'm kind of an atheist sort of thing. Anyway, I don't really, you know, I'm not really churchified that kind of way, if that's a word, but I'm not really into that kind of thing. So back then, I'd have just probably shrugged it off and thought, oh no, I don't want to go and see somebody about my feelings. That it just wasn't done.
And a stranger, probably. Yeah, exactly. John, you said the best advice you ever received was from Eric Cantona.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. What was the advice?
It just came, you know, he's you know, when if he does speak to you, he didn't speak that much, but when he does speak to you, you kind of take it in and listen. Like he could, you know, he might have seen that I was a bit twitchy, a little bit nervous, you know, and just those little words like, you know, be yourself, just, you know, relax and just enjoy it, that kind of thing. And that's sometimes that's all you need. A legend like that, even speaking to me, who am I? Do you know what I mean? For him to even like acknowledge is a big thing, especially if you're United. Other fans might not get that, but when you're United and Eric speaks to you, like even like a Robson or something like that, you know, you feel 10 feet tall, and that's all it takes. You know, normally you just, no disrespect to Eric and that and all that, but they're kind of like aggressive and they're at you. You know, you've got to be that strong. But just a few words can be massive for you, you know, and that's what it did. Yeah.
I mean, he told you, he said, don't be afraid to be different or be different or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
And look at him. He's, you know, who wants to be normal, you know, and I think, and you look at it that way, you think, you know, you know, I'm not boring. You know, I'm different, you know, and he is different, isn't he? He's a one-off.
Absolutely.
You know, you break the mold of him, and it's sort of like, yeah, it resonates. Like, you know, he just touched me there. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Fantastic. Okay, so opening day of the Premiership season 1995-96, historical day for many reasons. United, it was a brave move by Sir Alex Ferguson at the time, because the season before we finished empty-handed. And what did he do? But he sold 3 of our best players and replaced them with youth. Now, Mark Hughes, Andre Kanchelskis, Paul Ince, great players, all great players. And to replace them with kids, the famous Alan Hansen quote, "You won't win anything with kids." It didn't start well, the 3-1 defeat to Aston Villa on the opening day. You played in this game. You came on as a sub for Gary Pallister. Talk to us a little bit about just that day and the feeling afterwards.
I'll say that day was special in my memory, because I had a good game, even though we got battered that day. And I think it was 3-0 when I came on. So again, there was no pressure. I could go, I was free, and I could go and play. There was no, you know, it's like 0-0. You know, half an hour to go, where you've got to be like, what if I make a mistake, that kind of thing. It was nothing like that. It was just 3-0, go on, go and play. And I'm always best when I'm free. Not that when there's no pressure, because I've always had pressure, but it was just, I felt free that day. And
to go and express yourself.
Mark Hughes, one of my favourite players. And when he got sold, I was like, what the fuck? You know, I was like, Jesus. You know, even Kanchelskis, devastated, thinking, what's going on here? You know, has the gaffer lost the plot or something? It
was a strange.
You know, they were proper players. But you know, I know there was a few injuries that year as well. That's why we were all included as well. So yeah, to have trust in Bex and the rest of them, and the gaffer must have seen something in us that the mentality that those 6 had, and trust them was huge, and obviously it paid benefits in the future, didn't it? So
Yeah, absolutely.
it was one of the biggest risks you could ever take, to be fair, and that's what the gaffer did, you know.
It really was, and just the timing of that to fit. I mean, if you won the double, you might say, okay, but
Yeah.
like to finish empty-handed, get rid of 3 of your best players and bring in
Yeah.
kids, it was wow. But methods behind his madness, obviously. Okay, so your first start. Now I remember this game vividly. 2-2 draw with Rotor Volgograd in the UEFA Cup. Just to remind people, the famous game where Peter Schmeichel scored the header. So you started.
He scored. Yeah, Peter scored that day, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Now, John, there's a fine line between bravery and maybe a little bit of stupidity. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do admire the fact.
Crazy.
Okay, Sir Alex Ferguson gave you your first start, and he said, "I want you to play at." He wanted you to play at right back, and you said, "Great, but I've got a better idea. Put me in at left back."
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about this.
And that's when the spectrum kicks in, because in my mind I've been playing left back most of the season for the reserves, or CB sort of thing, you know. And it was left field. It's like, right, we're going to play you right back, which is my natural position, really. But because I could play anywhere, I was shoved to the left side. And I'm thinking, oh God, I need to speak to the gaffer, like. And I wasn't scared to speak. I could speak to him anytime. And I just, like I say, we're just walking out to warm up. And I said, do you mind if I change with Phil? Knowing Phil could do both sides anyway. He sort of looked at me like I was sort of crazy. You know, I was like, what are you doing at this time? You know, I said, I need to go. I need to play left back. I'll feel more comfortable. I'll do good for you there. Not knowing that their best player was on their right wing, which he could have told me about, which I'm devastated about. But yeah, he was pretty nippy. So he changed it, and I was buzzing. Went out to warm up, and I'm out there thinking, I'm looking at it, and then once that's done, I'm thinking in my own mind, thinking, what am I doing here? Am I here? Is this real? Do you know? Just these are things that you're looking at, and I'm warming up with, like, me and Bex are pinging balls together, whoever it was, and I just feel, oh shit, I've got a game to play here, haven't I? You know, in front of like a packed full Old Trafford. That's when the nerves kicks in, and I'm thinking, right, it's fine. Your ability will get you there. Don't worry, you're technical. You're fine. You're fine. Just get on with it. Went out, heard the music and everything. Still surreal, thinking, what is going on here? The champ. Was it the Champions League then, or was it different?
No, the UEFA Cup.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they moved it, but it just seemed that it just, it was crazy. Game starts, and then I just feel like my legs were just seized up. They just felt really fucking tight. You know, I was thinking, shit, what's going on? Obviously, the pace was a bit big. It was a lot faster than what I'm used to because I was just reserves. It's completely different to playing at Old Trafford under the lights, sort of thing.
And my body, like stage fright you got, was it?
Yeah, of course. It's just like rabbit in headlights, and my body just seized, and that's not down to like not wanting to play. It was just something that happened. Is not a lot you can do about that. If your body seizes up, your body seizes up. I just remember I'd get on the ball. I know I'm a very positive player. I would try and take somewhere on, or I'd play it up top. But I remember just passing it back to Pallister all the time and thinking, just trying to put him in shit all the time, thinking, what am I doing here? You know, playing safe, and you can't play safe at United. You know that. It's like, I remember the right winger just knocking it and running past, and I was fast, and he just knocked it past me and whipping stuff in. I'm thinking, shit, swallow me up now. What am I doing? I wish I was playing right back. Phil's over there just chilling away. Like, I'm like, fuck, what have I done? And then I saw people warming up, and I just knew it was me. I knew in my heart it was me. And then I saw the board, and in a way, I was probably relieved in a way that he put me out of my misery. But I think we were 2-0 down at that stage anyway, or maybe 1-0 down.
Yeah,
so
we come back to
in my head, it was tactical. I'm going to call it. It was tactical. It wasn't that. And to be fair, I overthought it anyway. That I was that bad. I probably wasn't that bad, to be honest.
No, he was just really fast, and I remember.
It was fast. I mean, we were losing. It wasn't just down to me that we lost. There was. I can't remember the goals, but I don't think it was my fault for any of the goals. But it was just he needed to change it, and I don't know who he brought on. I thought it might have been Lee Sharp. I'm not sure, but they
can't
came
remember
on and
now,
they
actually.
read,
Mhm.
and they got the game back, didn't they, through Peter? So
Yeah.
just like
Actually,
that's
the one good thing about Peter's goal, I remember it saved a 40-year unbeaten record at home in Europe. I
there
remember
you
that.
go.
Yeah, even though
Yeah,
you went out.
you could have blamed me
Silver
for it.
linings.
And I'd have blamed
Yeah.
myself for that as well. Yeah. Yeah, it was like I say, it's a good story to have, but I say it sums in the book. It's a sliding doors moment,
Yes.
you know. It's a sliding doors moment, and like I say, Michael, the ghostwriter, he worded it really well, you know, as in sliding doors and sort of thing. And
He did. Very good.
yeah, he looked back on that, and it's a funny chapter, but it's, you know, it sort of kind of sums me up, to be honest.
Was there a conversation with Sir Alex after this about, come here, about that good idea you had?
No, nothing. To be fair, it wasn't really like that. It was just, I don't think he even thought about it, to be honest. He just thought, well, I've always, you know, I played right back, I played centre half, I played midfield, I've been up front, I've been all over. So he sort of trusted me to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So
And to be fair, John, you know, it's not like he, you know, no disrespect, but it's not like he let you make the decision. If he didn't believe you would do a good job there, he wouldn't have agreed to put you there. So
no one's going to force him to do anything. But
yeah,
it just,
exactly.
it just made sense that we both could play either side, and it wouldn't have made any difference. But you know, it made a difference to me too, because if I was on the right, if I was playing right back, sliding doors, who'd have known? I might have played every game from then. Neville might not have been known it. Do you know what I mean? You look at that, you think Neville might never got back in again.
Did that haunt you for a little bit?
Pardon?
Did that haunt you for a time?
No, no, I didn't give it a second thought. It's not in my makeup to think like that, you know.
Yeah.
No, never.
Things happen for a reason, John.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in that anyway.
Yeah.
Things happen for a reason, things don't happen for a reason as well.
You know, I wouldn't be sat here now talking to you if I'd have chose to go right back, would I? You know,
well, thank God you played left back that day. You could talk to me today.
My 3 children might have been born if I'd have chose to go right back. You know, little things like that. You know, you just don't know how things pan out. You know, I do sort of think, I'm not into, like, you know, say thinking stuff like that, the higher being and stuff, but I think things work out more or less for the best, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good attitude to have. Okay, so you did say in the book that you felt you stayed 4 years too long at United, which I thought was very interesting. You mentioned you used an expression, you felt institutionalized. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, in any football club, like look at Jesse, for instance. He's been there since about 4 or 5. It's hard to, I know he's on a contract now, but it's hard to get away from that monotonous sort of, it is institutionalized, whereas you just sort of, you're going through the years and they just rack up and you don't realize, what the hell am I doing? My son was at a club and he was there just making the numbers up, basically, just adding to a team of reserves, or under 23s it is now, just playing for the sake of playing. I'm taking him out, or I'm advising him, say, come play at 3 leagues below, come play every week. But I didn't have that stable family environment to say, like a strong dad, say, what are you doing? Get out of here. Do not sign that contract. You're done. You know, and I might listen, but I'm quite a strong-willed person. It was just, I suppose it was an easy life for me. You know, going to training at Man United. And fair, I was a Man United fan from 8. As soon as I saw that first game in 89 against Arsenal, with Michael Knight bounced the ball on his head, I fell in love with Man United that day. It was scary. It was in me. So, you know, it's hard to get out of that bubble that you're in and say, right, I need to not sign this contract for another 2 years and just break that cycle. But it was hard at the time because you're with your mates and it was good going train every day.
Love the club,
watching the games, winning all the you know, the cups that were doing, the leagues. I wasn't bitter at all. People say, oh, you're bitter, because I know when you're on Twitter, you're bitter. There's no bitterness in me at all to think what I could have done. I'm a Man U fan. Forget that I used to play for United. I'm a United fan first and foremost. But back in the day, I was happy going to watch the games at Old Trafford, training, going home, chilling with the lads and watching the game. That was my life, and I enjoyed it. And then I'd say the last probably year and a half, 2 years, where I wouldn't say I was bitter, but I became disillusioned, and I wasn't like 100% for the cause, if you know what I mean. I wasn't giving everything. I knew there was more, and I just didn't. People who know me said, "You just did enough." I did enough. I didn't push myself to what I could. And that's why that's why Ferguson kept me around, because he knew it was there. He was just waiting for it to click, and it sort of never clicked. The ability was there, no doubt, but it was just like pushing yourself extra percent that I didn't have it in me to do. And I don't know if it was the spectrum or whatever it was to just stop me from doing it. I don't know, but it was just something in me that just wasn't there. And it wasn't laziness. I wasn't like, I wasn't like a savage kind of player or Bex who did run all day. I did enough. Like even Rio, you look at them, the classy players, they just do enough, don't they?
That's okay. No problem.
So they just do enough. And I should have pushed myself a lot more, and I get that. But people call it lazy. I don't think I was lazy. I should have done a little bit more, but it just wasn't my makeup. And I got in that institutionalized feel, like you say, that I couldn't break that cycle. But then Everton came in, and I just couldn't turn it down.
Okay, yeah, and we're going to talk about Everton in 1 second. But one last question on that topic. So you're talking about, your own attitude, your own work rate and everything like that. But is it a fair question to ask, I'm not one to criticize Alex Ferguson by any means, but, the man management skills, and every character is different. Is there a little element of that maybe you needed a little arm around you and a little, I don't know, some kind of help in this way to get the best out of you?
Yeah, but it just wasn't done back. It just wasn't done. You had like characters like Jimmy Curran, the old masseur physio sort of type. Kiddo was a bit like that, to be fair. He wasn't as aggressive a coach. He was quite technical, very, very good coach. And he used to be like one of the lads, sort of like, the go-between the gaffer and the lads. So, but Eric, Nobby, Jim Ryan as such, I got on well with Jim Ryan, to be fair. But yeah, back in the day, you didn't really get an arm around you, to be fair. It was very manly back then, and you just have to get on with it. But I used to speak to the gaffer regular. In a week's training, I would probably see him about average on 4 times a week, where I just pop in and see him if I was a bit disillusioned, or I wasn't training with the first team, or I was doing it. I'd just go in and talk to him. He'd be fine. He'd just chat with me, and make sure I didn't have any earrings in my ear, because he'd just rip them out and take them. He did that a few times.
Actually, pull it, out of your ear.
Oh yeah, because they were like
clip-ons, is it?
You get like a clip. You sometimes have their clip-ons as well, don't you?
Okay.
And like even the one, I remember the diamond one he had. He took that out straight away. I was like, but we actually got on well, and I respected him. I would never like. Look, I got up to all sorts of stuff back then, because you could do, obviously with the Sharpie party, that kind of thing. But we used to go out all the time. But you can sort of get away. But he sort of, he had that fear. Obviously, you feared him a lot of places. But I wouldn't say I feared him as such. But I just obviously respected him. Because,
he didn't want to let him down. And
down. That's the thing. Yeah. But it was just a shame that I just couldn't deliver in that way, that he knew that it was there. That's probably the one little bit of regret. I thought, I should have been a regular for United, really. But again, he used to say, sort this out and you're in my team. And that's what he used to say to me.
You moved on to Everton, very well-run club, very well-respected club, always have been. You did go on record of saying, like, you really enjoyed your football again. And that was obvious, actually, looking at that when you were with Everton. I felt like you really blossomed under Howard Kendall. He put a lot of trust in you. And I know there was a good relationship there. You have said that at the end of that season, was it 1998, when they stayed up from relegation?
Yeah.
You have said in the book that looking back, you kind of wish you finished your career there.
Oh, I do. To be fair, that day was like, I just did an interview with Liverpool Echo before, and he brought it all back. Like it felt really good speaking about it, because that was a special day for me. Coping with the pressure as well. I didn't feel any pressure at all. Obviously, I wanted to stay up for the fans, because the fans, obviously, fans are quality, to be fair. And they took me in, for that day to keep that club in the Premier League was a big thing. For our Ken, that was his third stint there as well, and for him not to have a relegation was massive for him as well, And we stayed up the last games that we needed. I think we drew that game as well, didn't we? The draw.
I think so.
The draw was enough against Coventry. But was just a great day. It really was.
Yeah, fantastic. And what about then? Obviously, you must have been distraught when he was sacked in that summer. What was it, in the
Yes.
summer he was let go, and then
Yeah.
Walter Smith came in? Now, I know not your favorite person in the world. Can you tell people, because the reason I want to ask you, John, is I feel like it is an important part of your story. Your first meeting ever with
Yeah.
Walter Smith.
Well, that was
Tell
it.
us.
I was literally about to sign a sort of new contract with Everton through Howard. We discussed it near the end of the season that, you know, my agent was looking to get me in and get a new, because the contract I want wasn't great. It was okay. I just accepted it because I wanted out of United, and that was it. And I heard that he got sacked. I was literally on the beach in Ayia Napa, and I read the Sun, and he was sacked. I was like, shit, I was devastated. So I was thinking, obviously for him, but I was thinking, well, where does that leave me, sort of thing. So now in my head, I've got to go, right, I've got to go again now. I've got to impress the new boss. I've got to reboot all my thinking again, you know, because again, on first sort of when managers come in, they want their own players. Everyone's on trial basically, aren't they? So I think, shit, I've got to go through this all again now. I've got to start again. And my first meeting was Walter. I remember it so clear. I was in the boot room, and he came down with Archie Knox, and what he said, I've heard you're a lazy bastard. And I was like, I was took aback. I was like, you know, and in my way, my usual okay way, I went, oh, nice to meet you as well. You know, you know,
reflex reply.
Yeah, I was like, you fucking toss it. You know what I mean? I was like, what's the first thing you're going to say to me? Like, you don't even know me. Like, and it got me back up. And me being me, that's like fucking red rag. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
To a bull sort of thing, you know? And it got me back up straight away, thinking, he don't even want me. I can tell you again. You can tell that when someone doesn't like you or want you at the club. And I knew as soon as he looked at me, and I've always had this. I can see it in people's eyes where they know especially in football, you know when you want it. Any footballer tell you, you know when somebody doesn't like you or want you. And I knew from that statement there straight away that he didn't own any part of me. Like I say, went to training, fine, did the pre-season. He never spoke to me, and that's not an indication that somebody doesn't like you or doesn't want you. I suppose not like you. Probably, you know, I don't know what he was thinking, but you just know that I wasn't in his plans. Because normally a new manager will come in, the new players, he'd have your arm around you, have a little joke with you, you know, have a bit of crack with you like he did with Don Hutchison and a few other players that he wanted to keep. He'd be, you know, doing that kind of thing. But he never interacted with me once, never once, you know. It banished me off to play with the under 16s and 18s and stuff. Like you
How old were you that time, John?
What was I then? About 24-ish, something like that.
Yeah,
I think.
something like
that. 97, weren't it? 97, 98, yeah.
98, 99 season he came in,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was a year after.
United went on to win the treble,
yeah. Timing.
Sorry.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Again, you know, I love that treble. I'd always say that treble was fucking brilliant, and I celebrated like a fan, so it didn't matter to me. But yeah, timing's everything. But yeah, with Walter, I just knew my face didn't fit, and I remember going in like I used to do with Fergie. I went into office and said, "Look, I've had enough of this. Like, what's going on? Have I done something to offend you?" And I fronted him up. He was in his office, sat there. I can see him clear as day now. Have I done something wrong? So I want to try and be in your team. I want to try my best for you. I want, you know, I played last season. I thought I did okay. He said, like, get the fuck out. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you. And that was more or less it. It's in the book. I put it in there, but and I said, and I kind of choked up a bit because I knew that was it. I was done. And I loved Everton. Do you know what I mean? I loved the fans and I loved being there. It was a new start for me. And I was thinking of going to buy a house there as well and everything. I thought I'm set. And my whole career there was just done in that one sentence. And I can't say I was bawling, but I had a tear walking out. I was like, I had a lump in front, and I was almost there. Do you know what I mean? You bastard. Do you know what I mean? You could have just been nice and said, look, John, you're a good player, but you're not in my thoughts. And I'd have gone, no worries, and I'd have moved on. But the way he did it, it was disgusting. But
he'd made up his mind before he even got to know you.
Exactly. He made his mind up that I was a lazy bastard from the first time he saw me.
Can I ask you quickly about, and this is someone that I know, and he's a friend of mine, Terry Phelan. You were at Everton together as well.
Yeah, he was a lovely guy. See, again, vibes. He's so he's such a good fella. You know, when I first went there, and he welcomed you into the club. He's just very friendly. He's a mank as well, isn't he?
He is. A city,
very
unfortunately.
He's about 3 foot tall, but he's tiny. I've not seen him since Everton either. But he was a lovely guy and really nice to know.
Gentleman.
Good player as well. Hell of a
Fantastic player. So fast.
He's
living in India. I don't know if you know that.
India?
He's coaching in India.
He's coaching and stuff out there.
Coaching and doing some punditry. He was a manager as well.
Really?
Yeah. Enjoying life out there. And he still
looks... Very enthusiastic and just... he just says it how it is, and that's how I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, still looks like he's 25, by the way.
Yeah.
Sickening. Okay, you did move on to Bolton after that.
I loved my time there, and then again the cycle is sort of repeated itself. I was like, you know, when's this going to end, sort of thing, you know. And then obviously, like I say, went to Blackpool after that.
So what is this, John? Do you think was there a self-destructive streak in you?
Yeah,
do you think?
Yeah. I think it's like having one foot out the door, knowing that I wasn't happy. I was never really happy. Obviously, I was happy schoolboy-wise, Man United, all the youth years. I loved it, like I said before. But it was always when it got serious and the monotonous and the routine that you have to have, everything's done for you, and you're treated like a baby, basically. You can't do anything for yourself. You can't think for yourself. And I'm not made that way, you know? And it's like I'm pushing against that authority figure all the time. And you can't, like I said, you can't do that. And I'm always had one foot out the door every club. I'd always start well. Like I say, Everton, the Bolton, and obviously going to Blackpool. I was captain at Blackpool, did really well. We won a few cups and stuff. And then that kicks in, you know, the repeating of the manager constantly like trying to belittle you all the time. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I just thought, I don't need this. And something broke inside. I was probably depressed as well, which are probably, you know, obviously the stuff going on, the spectrum and everything, it all builds up. And at 28, 29, I'm at my peak. I should be at my peak then, you know, especially as a defender, you're peaking then, you know. And I just needed out, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's incredible. But at least you were aware of that. You knew the time.
I have to be, yeah.
Yeah. There was a thing there you said about your very last game for Blackpool. You have zero recollection of it. You also said about the 1996 FA Cup final when the whole squad, it was kind of compulsory for the whole squad to travel to the game. You don't remember this. So what kind of happens in those moments where you have no recollection?
It's crazy. I don't know if I'm wired up different. I can tell you now, even in the book, I can't tell you the game right now, what the Blackpool last game, what you read it. I don't even know what was the last game from the Blackpool.
I forget who you were playing, but I remember you
no
saying
idea.
2003, your
like
last
say,
game.
It just doesn't,
zero.
Nothing sunk in like I should take in that moment and think, like I played at Wembley and stuff, take in that moment and absorb it, you know, write it down and put it in a jot or whatever, a diary or whatever, you know. But it was just, I was living in that moment. I've always lived in that moment, like even like money wise as well. Like I would in the 90s, I'd live in the moment and I'm not thinking like ahead. Do you know that kind of thing? Again, it might be a makeup thing, or I wouldn't say it's down to thickness or anything. No, I'm quite bright sort of thing, but I'm quite articulate in a way. But it's just, and like if I had a game, like I couldn't remember half the games I played for United. Like I speak to Ben Thornley and stuff, and he's really not, and he's really not for these games that were played in Ireland pre-season. I'm thinking, was I there? Did I play that game? I can't remember shit. You know, I just didn't. I'd never took it that serious. I turned up, I played, and I went home.
Crazy,
and that was more or less, which is madness if you think about it.
And yet you did mention in the book that you would remember comments from the crowd. Some players say that they never hear the crowd. You know, they block it out. You would hear actual
I'm very aware. I'm aware of stuff that's going on in my head and my body. I'm aware. So I can remember little things that have said from 20 years ago, or a face, little things like that. But as a whole thing of like, right, did I against West Ham for Everton? What was the score? No idea what the score was. Just little things that I can't. But you'll get little things that will just trigger me. I think, yeah, I remember that. I remember it. Just
Yeah.
you know.
Did you hear a recent interview with the Man United podcast with Paul Scholes where he's talking about his career? It's
Yeah.
actually criminal how little he remembers of his career. But
He's another player. He
he's so
just
laid back.
turns up, he plays his game, and he fucks off home. Do you know?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, yeah, you know, where other players absorb every little thing about their
Yeah.
career and about.
Mhm.
And I just didn't take it. I just never took it that serious. I had other things to think about, other things to do.
You were supposed to retire after Blackpool, but you were convinced to come back a little bit with non-league Hyde United. And you did quite well, actually. You played over 100 games for them.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, that's it. That was a classic of going back to being free. I went there. I was a bit, oh shit, Hyde United. You know, so it was a really I think it was in like a North Conference or something really, really low. We did a double when I was there as well. So we had up a few divisions, and it's probably my best football I've ever played. To be fair, it's like, you know, I was free. I know that the standard wasn't great, but it was decent enough that you get a lot of old pros coming down and filtering down. I played centre half. I was captain, and I absolutely destroyed it. You know what I mean? I loved it. I was the best player by a mile because I could read everything. You see, and I played with freedom, and I was happy. You know, and trying to think back to when I was like that, was playing on the streets when I was, you know, 8, 9, 10 up to about 14. It's the freedom that I've craved, and that Hyde United gave me that freedom just to go and play.
Fantastic.
Tony Ellis and Wayne Warewell, they were the managers at the time, and they knew I could play. Obviously, the levels I've been at, and they you know, didn't have to tell me anything. I just went out and played, and that was it. And yeah, I said I did retire. I said that's it after Blackpool. A mini breakdown sort of thing, feeling sorry for myself. What am I going to do? No qualifications, so I had to retrain myself in education because I knew I wanted to do something different. And then Tony Ellis rang me up and said, "Oh, do you want to come train?" Because I've moved back to Nottingham then as well. So I was living in the Northwest since I was 15. So fuck it, I'm going back to Nottingham where I was born, see all my old mates again. Moved in with my mate Steve Robinson. And that was it. I was settled. And then he said, "Oh, you can just come up once a week and play." And that's it. I played like a Saturday and a Tuesday and go home. And that was it. And I was happy as Larry, cash in hand.
Nice.
Really good wage as well for that level. And I was so happy, you know, and that's why I stayed there that long.
There's a lot to be said for happiness, John, isn't there?
Oh, massive.
The one word that really stood out to me at this time in your life, and it was lovely to read it in your book, was just freedom. You've mentioned this word a few times, the freedom and the happiness that came back into your life, which is great to hear it. You did try your hand at, you know, very different jobs. You were working on building sites, which you really enjoyed. But then talk to me about the care work. And is this your true calling, John? Do you finally feel this is what I was made to do?
Well, yeah, I knew I needed a challenge, and that was the big word. I needed something to get me up in the morning. Because literally for a year, I was just playing golf and just, you know, my son had just been born as well, and I'd snapped my Achilles at Hyde as well. So I was out, I had a pot and everything. So I think, what am I going to do here? I have no qualifications, nothing. So I had to sort of retrain myself. And it was actually Simone's, one of her mates said, you know, you seem quite sort of tactile. You're very good with kids, sort of thing. And she said, "Oh, well, she's a manager of this care home with kids, autism." Straight away, I was like, light bulb moment. I was like, "Oh, okay, I know exactly how to deal with children like this," because, you know, I'm basically that myself. You know, some of the kids that you work with are obviously quite severe as well. So I tried it, and the first day, looked after this obviously can't go into too much detail because of confidentiality.
Of course, yeah, of course.
They put me with the hardest kid who would hit out a lot. He would soil himself, that kind of thing. And I did it, and I actually loved it. The challenge of trying to help this young person manage his day in a care sector with loads of other different characters who work there from all walks of background. And I just thrived off it. I went from interview, I got it, and I just thought I felt sort of challenged, obviously, and I felt happy, which wasn't like me. I was thinking, I should I be happy doing this? I'm an
Mhm.
ex-footballer working in a care home. What the fuck's going on? Do you know what I mean? What is going on
Yeah.
here?
Well, was there
Uh,
any part of you think, was there any dent to your ego there a little bit, maybe?
not one bit, because I'm not built
Good.
that way. And I used to get a
Fantastic.
lot from people who used to work there. Obviously, they found out that I used to be United, always
Mhm.
United, or whatever. Why are you working here? And I say, oh, why shouldn't I work here? I'm retired. Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to a different career sort of thing.
Mhm.
So I say, why shouldn't I work here? Am I special or something? Am I like, because I was a footballer, I can't work again because
Mhm.
it's demeaning. Yeah, people put the like footballers on like this pedestal that because they're footballers, they're like a higher being. That
Yeah.
they should be multimillionaires. They shouldn't have to work again. Da, 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 da. I want to work. I needed a new calling, and
Mhm.
that's what it was. And I thought I actually loved going into work, and that was that. I've had that for like a good 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's hard to
Mhm.
describe getting up, working your ass off, with kids who are quite hard to look after,
Yeah.
and young adults as well, not just kids. And I buzzed off it, and I loved it, and that's where
Mhm.
I went in that, and I stayed in that sector for 15 years, in colleges, universities, schools, schools. I've done every kind of sector there is, respite, one-to-ones, two-to-ones, three-to-ones, every kind of,
Mhm.
to help people. And that's what I did. And, people always think, why have you done that? Why did you do that? Because I wanted to, and it just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Since you're retired, you've had your fair share of difficulties, your challenges, your poor mum passing away in 2018, of course, diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder. And also one thing that I really want to ask you about, because I can relate to this, you were diagnosed with kidney disease.
Uh,
Now, so I'm curious about this, if I can ask you about it, because myself personally, about 2 months ago, I had an accident in my garden, cutting the grass, and
mm,
I fell on something. And I was afraid it was really bad injury. My stomach was black and blue, but I was
mm,
afraid maybe I punctured something. Now I left it for a few days, but my stomach was swelling and the color
mm.
was really bad. So to be safe, I went and got a scan. And when I went for the scan, the doctor said to me, "Have you had any operations?" And I said, "Yeah, got my shoulder done. Had a couple of injuries, from sport." And he said, "Did you ever have a kidney removed?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, there's only one here."
Seriously,
So, yes. So, only now, 2 months ago, I found out I was born with one kidney.
that's great.
And it's crazy. So, apparently, one in every 750 people are born with one kidney. Now, he
Okay.
said, "Look, there's every chance you'll have a perfectly healthy life. But if
Uh,
you ever develop a problem because you've only one, it's a serious problem." I used to do boxing, John, and
yeah.
kickboxing. Maybe it kind of might explain why a kidney punch never bothered me.
All right. Which side we're talking?
The left side, the left
Left
side.
side. So you can take all the kidney punches you wanted, like you'd be
No
fine.
problem. No problem.
Good days.
But it's crazy. So tell me, what's this like to live with, John?
Well, at the moment, absolutely fine. I feel healthy.
Good.
Um, like I say, mentally wise, it doesn't affect me. But I've just had a few blood tests recently. Just because I'm at stage 4 apparently, stage 4 kidney
Hmm.
disease, and one more. I'm going to need like an operation. I'm going to need all sorts, But
Okay.
I needed to know if everything was fine. But they said all my blood type, everything's fine. So I'm okay. I
Hmm.
know
It's under
Coley,
control.
yeah, Andy Cole's got it as well, and he had an
Hmm.
operation into and stuff. So
Yeah.
he's still being affected into. But touch wood, I'm fine. But when I got diagnosed at the time, you don't know what's going to happen. I'm thinking that's it. I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting headaches. And Simone just said, "You better go to doctors." I was like, "Oh, I'll be fine." Left it a few weeks, wanting to see the doctor, and they said your temperature's 200, over 100 or something. So said you need to go to hospital straight away. I was like, "I feel fine," apart from my headaches. So
Hmm.
it's hypertension as well, the back of my head, and it just built up and it damaged my kidneys for the high blood pressure. So and they do say high blood pressure is like a silent killer, isn't it, for men
Yeah.
especially as well.
Big time.
So yeah, went to the hospital. If you hadn't come in, they said you'd have had a heart attack or a stroke within a couple of weeks, sort of thing. So that shot me.
Hmm.
Obviously, in my character, I put the brave face on like it didn't affect me and stuff, but inside I was fucking devastated, you know.
Of course.
And funny story, like, but the actual doctor came in hospital. He sort of knelt down beside me, started stroking my knee. And I'm thinking, you know, what's going on here? I'm thinking, am I going to die here? Like he was going to tell me, he said, oh, have you got anybody with you? I need to tell you something. I'm like, for fuck's sake. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm brown bread. You know what I mean? He said, right, we're going to put you on a course of tablets. I'm thinking, fuck, man. I said, do you realise you just like scared me to death? Like I thought I was going to die. He said, well, you could have nearly sort of thing, but yeah, we've caught it in time. Getting tablets, and we'll see how you react to it. So, touch wood, I'm absolutely fine at the moment. 13 mils every day tablets, so that'd be for the rest of my life. I'd have thought. So it's just keeping vigilant with that sort of thing and trying to keep a sort of healthy diet, and you know, obviously got to keep healthy still. I'm still quite healthy, so
you're looking good. You're looking good.
Fine.
Good. Oh, that's good to hear. No, I was just curious about that one because it was so recent when I heard that as well. Jeez, I didn't know what to think. Okay, so we're nearly finished, John, I promise. So I just want to ask you, in 2017, you bumped into Sir Alex Ferguson again. You described this moment as closure. Talk to me a little bit about this moment.
Yeah, so I'd not seen him, obviously, for a few years. And he invited all up. I think we're honouring Eric Harrison and Nobby Styles. And none of the class of 92 turned up. It was many of the fringe players that turned up, which I was a bit disappointed about. But that's another story. But yeah, he invited us for a drink into his little office where he keeps all his red wine and stuff. And Simone made her way in there. She'd been on the sauce all day as well, because she went to the game with some of the family as well. So she was a bit tipsy. Got in there, and I could see her talking to you know, the gaffer, and she was pointing and stuff, like doing that in his face. I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on? What was this? Who's this? Hello, I'll be 2 seconds, buddy. And I was thinking, I was thinking, what are you saying? What have you done? You know, and I made my way through the crowd to get to him. I said, ignore her. What is she saying? Ignore her. And it's fair. She was sticking up for me. She was saying, why didn't you help him while he was there? He was suffering big time. And in a way, I respect that, what she said, because she was looking out for me. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, Simone, leave it, it's fine. And he said, look, back in them days, sort of thing, it just wasn't sort of, done sort of thing. Yeah. And I said to him, look, I'll just apologise for not making it for him, because and I think he did believe me. That's why I was there so long. He just kept me around thinking something was going to click. And I said, look, I'm sorry for not producing for you, not going that extra yard that I should have, that kind of thing. But I had things going on as well, behind the scenes in my head, that kind of thing. He just said, look, John, don't worry about it, no regrets. You know, everybody can't play, for United, that kind of thing. It's just one of them things, isn't it? Don't worry about it. And that it sort of made me sort of like, breathe a little bit. I was thinking, oh, appreciate that, So I always thought that he thought I was sort of like a failure sort of thing, because he was, you look at him, he was quite like a father figure. I had a stepdad, but he was like that authoritative sort of figure that you sort of scared a little bit, but you respect it a lot, And he sort of, like you say, like a closure thing. Like I actually got to speak to him and say what was happening and that kind of thing, and I wasn't mentally prepared to be that player that you wanted me to be, sort of thing. That was it, really. But yeah, it was surreal, yeah.
Nice. Okay, John, I want to finish up with a little quote from your book that I really liked. Okay. Okay, so these are your words. You're talking about yourself here. There are two John O'Kanes. The first spent about 15 years living in a superficial bubble where I didn't really belong, and that ended a long time ago. The second worked in one of the toughest industries in society to help people's lives become better. And now I'm a dad to 3 great kids. I know which one I'm most proud of. I love that. I love that. I think it speaks volumes of you as a person, John. I think you have every right to be proud of both chapters in your life, and certainly every single chapter of the book. A brilliant book. Hats off to you. Thank you for sharing your story, John. I find you very inspirational. You're a good friend of mine. I really appreciate your time, and just keep doing the great work that you're doing. You really are an inspiration in so many ways, not just on the football pitch, So well done, and thank you for your time today.
Appreciate that, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Not at all. My pleasure. Okay, so I'm going to let you go. Sorry I took you up so much of your time.
That's fine. I had a couple hours spare, literally. Like I say, 3 kids here. I'm like, you don't stop, mate. So, yeah, no, I'll always find time for you, buddy. No worries.
Really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure, John. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Cheers, mate.
See you, buddy. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.